Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the program today, one of Nevada's most outspoken legislators, and she may be changing jobs. Assemblywoman Giunchigliani will be on the program today. We'll talk about the recently finished legislative session, plus will she be running for the Assembly again or the Clark County Commission? And coming up on the Power Pundit panel, Mary Lau, Dan Mason, and Pam Dupre. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communication, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
When making your decision as where to play golf, consider the resort at Red Hawk. You know you have made the right choice the moment you arrive. The friendly staff welcomes you to our award-winning pro shop. You know you've made the right decision on the first tee. The Lakes course is in the best condition in years. You know you've made the right choice after you've played 18 holes. The resort at Red Hawk, the right choice.
Nevada Newsmakers is sponsored in part by the Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? They do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we welcome the only legislator with a pronunciation guide for her name on her website, Giunchigliani. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for looking at the website.
Well, my pleasure. Wanted to start out here, as we always have to disclaim that Jim Rogers, the University Chancellor, is also the owner of Sunbelt, which owns Channel 3 in Vegas, Channel 4 in Northern Nevada, and also controls Channel 123, on which this program broadcasts. He came up with a suggestion earlier this week, actually it's about a week ago now, once we were playing this tape today, of wanting to pay the school superintendent, the person that's going to replace Carlos Garcia, $600,000 a year. What do you think about that when compared to the 2% per year raises for teachers that we've just seen?
I was surprised, as well as the school board was, from what I read in the paper, and I don't think $600,000 is the problem, let alone. Yeah, it is kind of a slap in the face of everybody else that's gone back to work with only a couple percent. The issue is nationally, it's a large and very stressful job. We're a very large school district, and I think before Carlos left, he told me that there was something like 9 to 14 superintendent openings across the United States. And part of that is public education is constantly under attack, so it takes you away from doing an agenda to actually improve education. And so recruiting people into that kind of a format is very difficult. Salary isn't always an issue, but I think somebody needs to sit down and really take a look at what do you want from a superintendent. And I do hope that the school board does go out of state. I think that they need to look and do a national search in order to make sure that we're bringing in one of the brightest and the best, and someone that's thinking a little bit out of the box.
But going from a salary in the $200,000 range, where would you like to see it?
I don't know that that's not competitive. I really don't have anything to base it on, so I'd have to see what superintendents are paid for like-sized districts, see if there's a kind of a package. But I really am concerned about having outside groups have to pay for it. If the school district feels it's important to fund the salary, they should be the one doing it.
Okay, Chris, let's talk about the suggestions that have been made, Bob Beers in particular, of breaking up the Clark County School District into several districts. What do you think about that?
We looked at that. Actually, I served John Porter when he was in the Senate. We worked on an interim committee that actually looked at the issue of breaking it up. And the recommendation came back that it probably wasn't the necessary route to go. Is our district large? I think Nevada was very unique in the 50s to have gone to a county-wide school districts. What many states have found over the years that they would have liked to have done that. You still have states that have 300, 400, and 500 school districts, which just drains their revenue. And it lessens the accountability. My husband came from South Dakota, and you had to have one every mile by 1 mile was a school board, regardless if there was any kids in the town or not. I think the issue of wanting to break up the school district is just a political ploy that, Sandy Tiffany has advanced this, Bob's talking about it. The size of the district is not the problem, it's management, and if you want 7 superintendents or 10 superintendents to have to deal with, you'll have that much more bureaucracy, that much more money diverted. And there was an equity issue. Nevada's unique in that we cannot raise money at the local level for school districts like you can in most states. We don't have millages that they can, or mills that they can assess. The only local revenue is for bonding. And that's all that's allowed by Constitution. So we're unique in that way. And so what happens is if you try to divide up the district, because the funding mechanism is really from the state, you could actually wind up creating wealthy districts that get most of the money versus your more minority districts that would get less of the money.
Let's talk about the session. What would you say was your biggest success there?
I'd have to say my green building bill, but it became a whole other number in the special session. My smart growth legislation, trying to help us look to balance development needs as well as environmental needs, and making sure that neighborhoods have a voice with their local governments. I do think finally getting some salary increase in the second year for all state, all public employees was very helpful. And normally that was not what had been recommended, so I think at least bumping that somewhat. But I'm still disappointed that we did not make education, K-12, the number one priority. We had a lot of money left over. People spent it on one-shots that had nothing to do with what they should have done during the budget process. So,
what was your biggest outrage?
Oh, dear. I think really forcing us into a special session over Millennium Scholarships when the Senate had the bill for over 2 weeks and then sat on it and then held a subcommittee and said, here's what we're going to put in there to make the Democrats in the Assembly have to come to take stuff out. And it was just all a political ploy, and I think that was shameful. And then what they wound up doing was hurting the students that we supposedly wanted to attract into higher education. I just think that was ludicrous.
In the final showdown, it was you and Bob Beers, right, doing the negotiating, correct?
Yeah, it was. Bob didn't want to settle anything. He didn't want to negotiate anything. We even had a student who's on a Millennium Scholarship that was there as an intern sit in with us. Garn Mabey came in, Heidi Gansert, and Bob this was just to embarrass everybody, I think. I don't think it had that much to do with the Millennium Scholarship. If it did, then they would have worked it out 2 weeks prior.
And pretty much as soon as you guys were out of the process, the thing got solved in, 10 minutes?
Probably 10, 15 minutes. But again, we were negotiating against ourselves in the Assembly. I don't believe in doing that. So whether I was right or wrong is not the issue. I think they worked out a compromise, but it was a compromise that hurt the students, and sometimes you don't go there.
Let's take a break, come back with more with Chris Giunchigliani right after this.
Thanks.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
My family started this business 27 years ago.
We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open.
For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof. Isn't anyone on my side anymore? The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Pepper Mill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Pepper Mill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you dining?
Your best value in sight is here for you to see. From frames to lenses to eye exams, you're covered A to Z. Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
Davis Optical Centers, with 2 locations in Reno and Sparks.
Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back with Assemblywoman Giunchigliani. Why didn't the banks get greater relief on their taxes in this session?
They got a one-time, I think, relief because the Senate wanted to take care of the banking industry. You remember from the session before how many individuals had to disclose that they served on bank boards, and yet they're still being treated differently than most other businesses. And what we were trying to do was equalize it. But, you know, that's the Senate cared more about them than the general public as far as that was concerned.
There's a lot of concern in the business community that even though, their taxes was lowered to 0.63, that in the next financial crisis that the state faces, that everybody will be raised up to that level of the banking tax at 2%. Do you think that fear is founded?
No, I really don't. The banks all along, if you go back 4 years ago to the other special session, all we were trying to do in the Assembly, as well as some in the Senate, was make sure that all businesses paid, not just a small group, number one. Number two, treat banks the same way that they do business in almost every other state, including all the states that surround us. And they did not want, they asked for the tax that we gave them, and now they want to go back and change that, and I think that's irresponsible. They didn't want to deal with the franchise tax, which is what most banks pay in the United States, which was a way of doing business, and therefore it would have been easy to administer. Instead, they came up with that per branch tax and so on and so forth. And it was their idea. We accepted it because that's all we could come to resolution on, and then they turned around and wanted to change it. Now, I did agree, and I actually had picked up a bill from a former Assemblyman Tom Collins to at least help the rural banks that we did not intend to hurt on the community bank side of it, and we did move some legislation on that part of it. But when you open up that door, you have the danger of having other ones want to piggyback on it. And that's part of what happened.
All right, let's change topics here. Are you going to be running for the Clark County Commission?
I'm still keeping my options open. I'm looking very seriously at it. But, after a session, no matter what, right now I'm just enjoying doing, this is the first summer, Sam, in 16 years that my husband and I have actually been together just doing household things, because normally he's in a campaign or I'm in a campaign, and it's just been delightful, and right now that's all I'm focusing on.
Any idea of when you're going to make a decision?
Probably, I would have to make some decisions probably by the end of September, I would think, just so that people know where I'm going and what my commitment is, and then I have to focus on fundraising.
Okay, so I should make a note here, end of September, call Chris. Okay. How much money do you think that somebody's going to need to raise for a county commission race this time around, especially one that's going to be contested?
I didn't hear the first part.
How much money do you think is going to be needed to be raised in a county commission race, especially one that will likely be contested?
Oh, I'll have to look. I think it's just egregious what people raise or have to raise in order to be competitive in commission and city council race. It's gotten to be ridiculous to have to raise $1 million. I just think it's wasteful. But that's what I read, that they're going to try to, some of the powers that be to raise for Myrna close to $900,000. I would not come close to that, but I will be competitive if I decide to get in. And I'm an excellent campaigner. My husband's one of the best, is the best as far as I'm concerned in the business, and no one should take me for granted if I choose to get in.
I don't think anybody does, Chris. Let's flip again now to the governor's race. Jim Gibson announced, and it'll be last week by the time this broadcasts, into the governor's race, either as a Democrat or as an independent. At this point, have you decided who you're supporting in the governor's race?
No, I'm not. I have to focus on my own election. It's so early yet to see who all. I mean, here you are. Rich has not announced yet. He will be soon. Dina did. You got Gibson. I don't know. I saw the paper today, sort of still hedging whether he was in the race. You have Gibbons. You have Rogers still out there. I think anybody is just sitting back to wait and see what the field's going to look like, and then start to make decisions on where support's going to go.
Okay, go back to the session for a second. What did you think of the neighborhood gaming plan?
The original bill was very discomforting because it was only there to affect one gaming institution against all the others, and that was wrong, and that's part of the reason the bill did not move forward out of judiciary. I'm a policy person, and I think it was inappropriate the way the bill was handled when it was revived in the Senate and tacked on to Assemblyman Anderson's legislation. There are problems with neighborhood gaming that we should take a look at, but it should be handled in an upfront, outright manner, not trying to pit one gaming group against another gaming group. That wasn't fair to them, and it wasn't fair to the neighbors. And what we had to look at if we were going to do anything is what's wrong with the process, what's broken, and what needed to be fixed. But unfortunately, it became a political game, and it was handled, in my opinion, very, very badly. And so it did not move forward, and it shouldn't have moved forward in the format and the way that it was handled.
Okay, last quick question here. Tabor, what do you think about Taxpayers' Bill of Rights?
I think Bob is using it because he has no other agenda right now. You have some people that want to run just to stir the pot, and sometimes that's healthy to get debates and issues out there, but he tried it during the Senate. He couldn't even convince his own conservative Republicans to go for it. So I think it's just more of a political ploy at this point.
And it's been a pleasure talking to you. We hope to talk to you very soon. I know I've got this September date now on my calendar. Chris G., enjoy the rest of your summer.
All right, take care.
Thanks so much for doing this. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
For more than a decade, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has been helping the community embrace conservation as a way of life. That includes replacing more than 50 million square feet of grass with water-smart landscaping. During the worst drought on record, watering restrictions and tough landscaping codes have reduced the community's water use by billions of gallons, even as thousands of new residents were moving into Nevada. That's smart water management, and that's our promise to Nevada.
When making your decision as where to play golf, consider the resort at Red Hawk. You know you have made the right choice the moment you arrive. The friendly staff welcomes you to our award-winning pro shop. You know you've made the right decision on the first tee. The Lakes course is in the best condition in years. You know you've made the right choice after you've played 18 holes. The resort at Red Hawk, the right choice.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
You bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, our Power Pundit panel today, Mary Lau, Executive Director of the Retail Association of Nevada, one of our proud sponsors, Dan Mason, who's Program Director for News Talk 780, KOH in Reno, and Pam Dupre, Executive Director of the Washoe County Democratic Party. All right, let's start out, Mary. I watched you watching the interview with Chris, and you kind of had some different ideas about some of the issues she was talking about.
Well, Sam, I love Chris G. I mean, I have worked with Chris for over 20 years, and she's about 70% right on. And when she's 30% right off, she's very much off. She's a consummate politician. She's an excellent legislator. But no way in heck. The K through 12 stuff, when Bob Beers walked in there, they had a pre-prepared conference committee report that nobody had reviewed. Of course it would blow up at that time. I mean, it was just politics at its best, and they didn't flinch. Everybody was thinking they'd flinch to get out of there on time. But the Republicans and the Senate didn't play that game. That game was played over on the Assembly side. Bank tax, you've heard me over and over again on that. The banks never requested the other tax. That was a threat that was held against them, and you cannot pass a different tax on banks. The only reason that banks have a franchise tax in other states is because there's corporate income tax, which we don't have here. We're not going to have here because we have a restriction on personal income. And corporations come back to personal income. You have a subchapter S, it's personal income. So you can't get an exact tax on that. The payroll tax bit, the business community said, will go higher if you keep all businesses level. And they didn't do that. They put the banks at a punitive amount. All they wanted from the banks in 2003 was $56 million. They were doing a running total. It didn't have anything to do with quality, quantity, anything else, just a dollar amount that they wanted the banks, and it was pure blackmail politics.
Chris Giunchigliani does say that she is a policy person, and she is an excellent legislator, and she's a policy person. And I think the policy is kind of what you have to look at here. I mean, banks are doing very well in the state of Nevada. Nevada always ranks near the top in terms of being business friendly, and it's the job of our legislators to look at that policy. Just how business friendly are we? I mean, does it get out of whack, out of skew?
Well, it gets out of whack with that branch fee. It gets out of whack with that because there is no necessity for that. That could have gone away. We had over $800 million in excess when we came in 2005. And we didn't really need the taxes in 2003, but we've got them. So let's work with them, let's tweak them, let's adjust them to make them appropriate. That individual branch fee is not appropriate. What are you going to do? Charge every single 7-Eleven a separate tax? You're going to charge every single Jack in the Box a separate tax? If you're going to be fair to business, you're fair to all business equally.
Okay, well, the thing, Dan, to me is, why are we punishing success?
Because that's what we do. It's not about achievement. It's about how can we spend all the money we've got our hands on.
Well, I mean, obviously the legislature did not spend all the money they had their hands on. They're giving $300 billion back to the taxpayers.
That's tokenism, Pam.
And when you talk about political games, I mean, Bob Beers is absolutely one of the best at that, and he will make a game out of this race for governor. And I just hope not too many people take him seriously.
I disagree with you. I think that this taxpayer Bill of Rights has a lot of legs, a lot of people. It makes sense to have some kind of control over the amount of money that government has to be able to spend as it expands each session.
Well, we have control. The voters have control.
May I just throw in one?
No, the voters don't have control over the budget.
No, but they might have if they pass this taxpayer Bill of Rights.
They will. They absolutely will.
But you know what I thought was interesting was the Review Journal editorial said that they wanted to see the rebates keep coming because the government was going to continue to have these excessive. Right, but they're saying we would like to see them because they already know they're going to have so much excess revenue going into the next session that they should make these rebates a regular thing. Isn't that a way to defeat Tabor, is by people running on a policy of saying we plan to give money back?
I think all legislators did a pretty good job of trying to craft how that rebate would be structured, Democrats, Republicans alike. It was Governor Gwynn that actually followed Bob Beers' lead. Bob Beers said $100. However, you don't have a tax policy that turns around and says, we'll give you a rebate every year.
No, I mean,
that's collecting too much money.
Yeah, the issue's got to be looked at throughout the interim.
Well, but hang on. Tabor does that.
But no, Tabor...
If you collect too much money every year, you would have...
But, you know, under Tabor, the way Beers is doing it, the way he's talked to me, is they end up putting part of it in the rainy day fund again, and then it reduces your expenditure level, and yes, you can rebate back taxes.
Tabor was a failure in Colorado.
It's not a failure in Colorado.
Failure in
it hasn't been voted out.
Let's go back
the only problem they had
ago.
in Colorado was they didn't have a rainy day fund.
2 years ago.
Colorado didn't have a rainy day fund, plus they put a ballot initiative in that caused spending.
When all those special sessions, when the tax increases went through in the last special sessions, and people said, okay, in 2004, those legislators are going to pay with their seats. Well, they didn't. Not the Mean 13 actually lost their minority. In their super minority in the state legislature.
Yeah, they lost Republicans that voted for the taxes.
There was no taxpayers' revolt as a result of that. Bob Beers cannot sell it in the legislature. He's not going to be able to sell it to the voters.
Oh, I disagree.
Yeah, I think I disagree too.
I don't know that I'm in favor of it, but I disagree.
I want to find reasons to keep the money.
I want to change subjects.
Well, one
shot
too.
You run a news talk radio station, so this doesn't affect you personally, but you and I both were in radio a long time ago and playing music. And all of a sudden, Sony, the nation's second largest record company, agreed on Monday to stop bribing radio programmers and pay $10 million as part of an agreement springing from an investigation by New York Attorney General Eliot Spitzer. This is a huge problem, is it not, sir?
Yes.
What's the definition of bribing a radio station?
None of this surprises me at all.
Would you explain it?
The definition of bribing a radio station, it's providing stuff, whatever it may be, in exchange for getting your records played.
Gifts,
giveaways.
trips, money.
You name it.
Concert
in the old days, drugs. I mean, it was pretty much anything to get. Oh, yes. Back in the 70s and 80s. Am I not correct, Dan?
Yep. This was an accident waiting to happen, and this is the tip of the iceberg.
But doesn't any and all businesses in marketing is all incentives and rebates and capital gain, cash? I don't know, I'm a little confused.
You can do all that above board.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the problem here is that they weren't. They were paying for playing. That you would get half of your gift, the ticket to your destination, and then you would get the second half once you played the record 125 times in your radio station.
Yeah, I'm not in that side of the business anymore, and I'm very happy that I'm not, by the way. But when it comes to music getting played on the radio, there's an awful lot of smoke and mirrors.
Now we just got to find
we'll be right
Rush
back.
Limbaugh's doing something illegal.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Here at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, water resources come from fresh, clean groundwater, approved by state permits. The water is pumped from wells to million-gallon storage tanks and then distributed to TRI companies. Another amenity is our investment in a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. This disposal system converts waste to clean water for industrial applications. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevada.
We love to get your emails at NevadaNewsmakers.com. Plus, you can watch our shows online now at NevadaNewsmakers.com. We keep 8 episodes online at any one time, and they're up by about 3 o'clock each afternoon. Coming up tomorrow, the outspoken editor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Tom Mitchell. It will be a great show. Join us then.